gente veio focado em ser campeão, não em ganhar de time X ou Y. A gente já sabe disso, mas a gente quer mostrar pra todo mundo que a gente é o melhor time do campeonato.
That's what we're here for. We're here to prove that we're the best and put on for the fans.
Ya estamos más que listos para darlo todo, vivir o morir.
Y ganaba. Cuidado porque empieza a plantar la spike. Vienen allí juntitos los chicos de la escuadra de M80. Apertura entonces ahora de Igara. ¡Sí! ¡De Igara, carajo! El clutch, el 1 contra 2.
Yo sé que por ahí hablan que Fusion no puede ascender y Fusion no tiene chance de ascender.
Tirou ele do lance e o ponto é da Fusion. Que é isso aí? O mito de
lidos como
lidos
livro.
Como livro. Olha,
Eu acho que é isso.
Vamos a callar boca, por así decir.
Cola Noob não se provou ainda o jogador que jogou durante o Challengers NA. Não se provou, cara. Os números deles eram bizarros. Não tá puxando operator. Tá difícil, cara. Ele vai ter que aparecer. Alguma hora o Cola tem que aparecer.
If we hesitate, we're gonna mess up. We're not gonna hesitate. We know how important these next matches are for us.
The control of this round. Forcing the guard. Oh my god, quality. He literally just saw like the flash of his elbow, and he finds that kill.
Round que tava difícil, mas que a sinergia falou mais alto, os balaços falaram mais alto e Xande finaliza com 4K. Ele nunca foi o problema, ele é a solução.
E a gente sabe que a gente é capaz, a gente sabe que a gente tem potencial e vamos ter que ir pra cima.
And welcome, everyone, to another day of VCT Ascension Americas as we are trudging our way through our final lower bracket matches. Every match an elimination match, and each win brings you one step closer to the grand finals for a match against the Guard. And they're fighting for that ultimate spot, a chance to play in VCT Americas in the coming year. Joining me on the desk today, we've got the brilliant minds of Vansili and Roy, a.k.a. Mr. Stronglegs. Stronglegs, we'll start with you. You've seen a couple of these games. You've been on the desk even with me a couple of times. The fact that we ended up with 9Z and M80 in the lower bracket may have surprised some people that M80's here, but ultimately someone was going to get it down here.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be it was just bound at some point that there were going to be some rematches, right? Like, there's really no way around it. Look at the bracket. I mean, for me, like, the one thing that is surprising about how many 2-0s we've seen, that I did not expect coming to this tournament, considering how competitive this event actually really was. I feel like the fact that there were so many 2-0s just kind of overshadowed some of that.
It took us the upper finals between Union and the Guard to finally get that, where even on that first map of that series between those two teams was actually quite nice. A very close game on Fracture, but the rest seemed like it was one like the Guard all the way pretty much there. And now they're just waiting here to see who they're going to meet up in the grand finals for that final spot into partnership for next year. But yes, I do agree. You're looking at this now, rematch games all across the board, potentially for today if M80 is able to move forward against 9Z.
And the Guard series you're talking about, it was 12-9. They were right on the edge. They let up 3 rounds in a row for Union to tie it, take it into OT. They traded rounds back and forth before Union chained 2 together at 16-14. So that even was almost a 2-0. But as you can see, the Guard is waiting in the upper bracket. Union waiting in the lower final for the conclusion of this game. And the winner will move on and play later today. This game being 9Z versus M80. As we take a look at the two teams we're going to be seeing competing in just a minute. Vansili, like we said, this is a rematch, and ultimately it's one where M80 drew blood first.
Yeah, exactly. And when you're looking at this matchup too for just 9Z overall, they haven't really had the best tournament yet going into Ascensions, right? They've only won 2 maps so far, and it was against their compatriots over at LatAm North against Fusion. And outside of that, it was very, very one-sided for 9Z against M80. Yes, they looked like they had some flash in the pan, but overall, it was definitely, the firepower of M80 that was much stronger than 9Z overall.
I think that was the game, too, that we were really waiting to see what M80 was going to bring to the table. Because if you remember, coming into the playoffs, M80 had kind of a bumpy group stage. It was not exactly perfect.
Yeah.
So when you see them play against 9Z there, everyone's like, okay, we need to see 9Z and M80 really hit pure form. And M80 definitely felt much more comfortable in 9Z in that upper quarterfinal than what we had seen from them in the group stages, because the group stages were a little bit rough. When we take a look back at the matchup too, you can see how things sort of shaped up in the series between the two teams, because it was M80, Roy, that kind of blew them out of the water.
Yeah, I mean, the first map was competitive, like Vansili was saying, right? Like Split, it looked like there was actually like a legitimate chance for 9Z. They were playing super well, but M80 just kept clawing some of these really close scenarios out, and it ended up being the 13-9. Then come around Lotus, I mean, that's been a really strong map for M80. There's really no way to sugarcoat it. So the 13-4, slightly surprising, but I mean, the result going towards M80 is not so surprising. But
yeah, I feel... Oh, sorry, go ahead, continue.
No, I was just gonna say one final thing. Like, I really do like the way 9Z plays the game. Like, I really like how flexible they are with their roles. I really like the fact that almost everyone has a chance to sort of shine and kind of like do their thing. And it sort of comes to they're gonna all have to make a really strong team effort for them to like beat M80.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, Ashley, in terms of the rules, is definitely on like those two of those players within that 9Z roster, switching over from a Sky to a Jet to a Chamber, depending what map that we need to play on. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that pans out, but it looks good on paper. Like, whoever has to play a Sky in that composition or in that roster still plays it very decently as well. So I do agree with Roy. They have some great things in the works on paper, but when you have like a 4-versus-1 that you lose against Nismo on Split and that momentum just switches over back to M80 for the whole series, what can you really do?
Well, we do have a chance. We were able to sit down and talk with the players about the match. Maybe we can get some insight in the preparation for this series. Let's take a look.
Foi jogo parelho a maior parte do tempo, mas a M80 confirma o seu favoritismo então.
M80 es un equipo fuerte, viene de ser campeón de la Challengers DNA. Sin embargo, les hemos jugado y no sentimos que hayamos estado por debajo del nivel. Entonces, lo único que hay que hacer es concentrarnos en nuestro juego, entender que ellos son buenos igual que nosotros y se puede ir para cualquier lado, y si trabajamos duro y estamos bien de mental, vamos a ganarle a cualquiera.
Niso, 4 abates, vem pro 5K, faz o M80 faz 2-0 na série.
We're going to bring everything to the table against 9Z. They're going to bring everything. They have some creative comps that they've brought up in the past. I think they're going to surprise us in the match, but we're going to come prepared and adapt to whatever challenges comes across us.
Para salir con esa victoria, yo creo que algo que aprendimos mucho jugando contra los equipos estadounidenses es el ritmo al que juegan y la forma con la que usan la utilidad. Y eso es a lo que nos estuvimos adaptando estos últimos días y creo que le logramos encontrar la vuelta, entonces nos va a ir bien.
We're the best team in the event. We had 2 unfortunate losses against the Union and the Garden. We're going to come up strong against 9Z. Our backs are now against the wall and we can't afford to lose any more games. And that's when we play the best, in my opinion. So going up against 9Z, I feel like everybody's going to be extremely confident and we're coming here for the win.
Lo que me da confianza y que vayamos a ganar es que uno de los trainers sabe cuando están haciendo las cosas bien, cuando están haciendo las cosas mal, y todos los resultados de estos últimos días nos da a entender de que tenemos todo para ganar.
You heard it mentioned by the players on 9Z. They said some of the things we learned during the group stages and then also throughout the playoffs is the way the North American teams play, the pacing, and their utility. And there are 2 players, fans, that we really wanted to highlight from that M80 side in regards to the way they combined the pace and the utility together.
Yeah, and if it's going to be on M80's side, it's definitely Nismo. We already mentioned him just earlier on in the show, but definitely Koala Noob is that second player. At the beginning of the show, we also mentioned how M80 overall had a very, very slow start to the tournament in itself, and nobody was really winning duels. But the more matches that we've seen from M80, the more comfort that we've seen from these players at their setups, at the desk, they've been looking better and better. But will this get reset once again now, because they're playing on a different stage today? They're playing in front of an audience, and they might have to get used to that again. And I'm like, okay, does 9Z actually have a chance here now?
Yeah, the psychology of this really changes when you kind of start playing in front of a crowd. Like the first step is like, okay, we're on land. This is sort of different. We're not at home. We're not in our PJs, right? Second step, there's now people watching me live. That's a little weird, right? Like it's kind of different experience from like online viewership. But I think for me, like a really strong talking point is the stats we just saw between Nismo and Koala. That was from overall the tournament. In the last series that they had between 9Z and M80, Nismo went plus 22, 220 ADR, right? Like that is insane.
Yeah, it's definitely different to go from playing in your house than playing in the studio, where it's like, oh, I got to worry about the staff seeing that I don't wear pants when I play. When you're in front of an arena, you really can't get away with that one. That's the exposure.
The best you could do is take off your shoes, you know?
True. Maybe you can wear Crocs and it's acceptable to take them off. I'm not exactly sure how that one works. Stage etiquette should certainly be addressed. But taking a look at the flip side, here's Rube Koida and Mizu, two of the premier performers, basically the counterpoint to your point previously, Vansili. These are the opposite end of what would be brought to the table from 9Z.
And that's what I really like, why I wanted to highlight these. So those were the two players between that Sky and the Jet, or even a Chamber. They are also a team that loves to play a Chamber, and I love to see the head-to-head between Mizu and Koala Noob, and which is why I wanted to highlight these.
And here comes M80 to the stage. Leading the charge will be the coaches from both M80 and 9Z as they grace the stage for the first time in their competitive careers with an audience like this. And an interesting twist. The coaches are actually on stage. They're going to be seated behind the players, which will obviously add an interesting variable as the coaches are now also exposed to that audience factor that can be somewhat intimidating. But when you look at a player like Happy, let's be real, Roy, that dude's used to this environment. If anything, he's like, oh my God, I'm on stage again. This is awesome.
Yeah, dude. Happy's like, I feel like having Happy as your sort of support staff must be so nice for M80, right? Because you have that sort of experience. Like, this guy was a major winner. Let's not forget that, right? Like, this guy's competed at the highest level for longer than I've been alive, almost. So, and I'm almost 30. I mean, I'm 30, but like, but yeah, like having Happy, I think it really helps.
Yeah, and another one to add that's actually not on the stage too for this coaching staff is also Gunter. Gunter's been around the scene for quite a while too with this M80 core when they were around here with Ghost Gaming. So Happy has that experience, the pedigree of the experience on the stage, what he could bring, and the championship mentality for M80. But to try to catch up to that as well as switching from a game to another, to have somebody like Gunter that helped somebody like Kaplan over in the Ghost days, it's always nice to have.
I am genuinely curious, though, how each of these teams will adjust to this LAN environment. Because, again, this is significantly different than even just playing in a studio. And like you mentioned, M80 had a hard time even just adjusting to studio. This team plays in a LAN environment. Typically, they boot camp, but it's not the same. It's a different desk. It's a different computer. It's a different monitor. Everything's different. You're getting adjusted to the chair, the layout, the fact that your opponents are literally staring you down from 10 feet away. And I do actually like the fact that ultimately the layout shifted a little, but it's not really that drastically different from what we saw in the studio environment.
Right.
So ultimately, I'm like looking at this, I'm like, okay, these teams are going to feel real comfortable. And it also means, I hope, fans, we get some of that trash talk we got in the studio.
Yeah, and I think that on top of that, the cheering from the crowd will be kind of nice to see. I'm intrigued to know what the crowd is going to be leaning towards to. Is it going to be towards an M80 side, or to keep it now towards like the South American side with now you have the LatAm teams playing on the other end for 9Z. But yeah, it's a packed stadium too. And this is going to be not only a first experience for M80, because we mentioned that on their end, but it's also the same thing for 9Z. So who's going to, break under the pressure? Hopefully it's none of them, so we can get some very, very good, clean, crisp Valorant.
Classic Vansili take as we get back for the match here. I mean, I love the fact that the audience is full. You got to keep in mind, like, typically first matches, sometimes it's a trickle-in effect. People are, like, checking everything out. Oh, look, there's a booth out here for this chair and this monitor. It's a full house. It looks like there's very few seats left remaining, which is obviously awesome. And I have personally worked an event in Brazil with about the crowd size you're seeing here. This crowd is like the equivalent of 10,000 North American fans. I'm sorry. I went to a North American major for another game. There was about 10,000 people there, and it was loud. The event I did in Rio with about 1,000 people was louder. The passion they bring, the noise, the volume.
I love that.
The general excitement. It might not have anything to do with these teams. It might just be like, hey, we're just thrilled to be watching this game. This is fun. This is exciting. That is something that you can either breathe in and pull it into your game and like kind of ride off that wave, or it can crack you when you have some of those rough moments and things don't work out so well.
I just love that in Brazil you have such a good mentality around tactical FPS shooters, right? So, or just tactical FPS, rather. I just said tactical FPS shooters, Anyways, it doesn't matter. But I do love that they have like that camaraderie for any team that tries to like rise up to the top as well in the Brazilian scene. So it's not just only the support for Loud. You're looking for the support of all the other teams that are trying to make it it through like 0-0 Nation, where unfortunately they didn't make it as far as the other teams this time around, though, over in Ascension. But to see now like two non-Brazilian teams having a full crowd behind them right now is actually quite nice. It feels kind of like just Tokyo all over again.
Fans, I like to call this love of the game, baby. This is what it's about, right? This is loving Valorant. This is loving the players, loving competition. Like, there's so many elements of sort of like love and support happening right here. I love it. I really hope the crowd goes to like maximum decibel levels. I want to see everyone just hype these players up. This is probably some of their first experiences, right? Like, this would be a really cool first experience for a lot of these players to sort of get it like you know, comfortable with playing on the main stage, playing in front of a crowd. You know, again, at the end of the day, these players are playing for a spot in the franchise league, in the partnered league as well. So this is the first step.
And it's the perfect arena for it too. If I'm not mistaken, they're playing in the Pacaembu arena, where it used to be like one of the local football teams. Actually, that was actually a huge football team back then too in Brazil. And now it's a mainstay for like an esports arena in São Paulo. And that in itself, I had an opportunity to do actually the Red Bull Campus Clutch with Dan Dryde. Actually, I like to say her full name, with Dan Dryde in this arena, and it's fun. It was a fun experience, a great arena. It's huge. The AC's blasting off the wazoo, so you don't have to worry about like how hot Brazil could be, and hopefully it's just the games are going to be hot.
It's a pretty awesome venue from everything I've seen. Seems to be more purpose-built towards esports, which is what makes this a pretty awesome-looking stage. And we're just waiting right now for the teams to get ready to show us what they can bring to the table. Because, again, just going back to this, 9Z did lose to M80 in the upper bracket quarterfinal. The start to the playoff bracket was a loss for 9Z. Ultimately, that means this team wants revenge so badly, and to do it here in front of a live audience is a massive motivating factor. However, M80 has been thinking about this all year long. From the second this roster was conceived, there was one goal in mind: making it into VCT. So as we see the picks and bans come through, I can see them up on the screen. We already saw the first veto. It's a little bit of a teaser for us.
Yeah. And the first teaser, it makes sense. We talk about revenge games, revenge matches. You're trying to learn, and you dip your toes into the water in Lotus against M80, and it did not look good at all. Yeah. It was infested by sharks, by just fragging power that M80 brought, and your strategy out of there didn't work. As they pick out, though, Pearl, I think this is going to be a nice one. It's been their go-to for 9Z in the first split in LATAM. There's been some minor changes on the map overall, but I still think that it could play the same way in his double controller style.
It isn't surprising, really. You see the Lotus ban, that does make sense. That's kind of what I had in my notes. Bind, obviously, M80 just doesn't want to play the map. You know, if they make it to the grand final, it's going to be tough because I don't think they get a ban there. So they're probably going to have to play Bind. And we'll finally see why they've been banning that map since basically February of this year. We'll end up on Pearl and Haven, though, which I feel like both maps could work out really nicely for M80, but again, you mentioned that kind of concealed factor. 9Z has only played this map twice since April 1st, so even though this was a standout map for them at one point in time, it's been a while, and the comps likely changed given that the meta has shifted, Roy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, they haven't played Pearl in over a month, or around a month, right? So a lot could have happened. Usually it takes about 2 weeks for teams to sort of swap their compositions, but really the main talking point for me here is the second map, which is Haven, right? If you're 9Z, you're sort of in a tough spot because you have to ban Lotus because you got absolutely destroyed on it last time, but now you have to play against M80's best map, who they hold some of the strongest records on that map.
Yeah, and which is why in my notes I had, you got to take this to a 3-map series, and your 2 maps have to be Ascent and Pearl. So I'm happy that the 3rd map goes into Ascent. We could hopefully see some nice fruition coming out of a chamber composition on that 3rd map if it goes to that 2 for 9Z. But Haven, I think you just scratched that out. This is going to be M80's map.
Yeah, you're calling it?
And then you just focus on that first one. Yeah, 100%. 100% this is going to M80.
It's a tough matchup.
I don't know. I feel like you were given the blueprint for how to beat them potentially when you look at the guard game. Now, obviously, that's difficult to just emulate the way that the guard plays. They're a very well-rounded roster. We were talking about it before the broadcast even started. Probably the strongest team, the most consistent. They have the best 5-man roster currently competing at this event. Everyone can step up at any given moment. Super coordinated. Everything's calculated, well prepared. It's literally like every praise you can give to a team, they receive.
Yeah.
So ultimately, yeah, you can look at that and be like, well, this is how you could beat them. But actually applying it to your game, that is potentially a different story. But they're going to have to start on Pearl. And Vance, as we look at Pearl again, I think the advantage for 9Z is the fact that they haven't played in a while. The advantage for M80 is they love this map. They play it quite a bit, and they certainly feel comfortable on it.
And because you haven't played it in so long, you have an opportunity to change that composition and bring out something new. But I think at this level, when you had such a good showing in that first split with that double control already, you might still want to pull that out. The only differences that we've seen on that first very map from 9Z was that they changed up their sentinel role, going out from a Killjoy to over a Cypher, and now they're keeping over to that Cypher. So 9Z stays to that double controller way. Main winning conditions here that I would like to say for 9Z, start mid-rounding a little bit more. Don't be too readable and try to avoid those trap plays from M80.
Yeah, and to add on top of that as well, like from 9Z's perspective, if you're M80, you've not really played against Cypher very much. You don't have much practice against the Cypher, right? Because Killjoy is really the meta here in North America. So like, there's going to be some element of surprise in terms of what the Cypher is going to do, what kind of setups they're going to bring with the camera, with the tripwires. Like, there's going to be a lot going on here for 9Z that M80 has not really, like, they've not really adjusted to, unless 9Z does what they've done in their last Pearl VOD, which was again a month ago.
Yeah, and that's the only time we've even seen this composition. Otherwise, they were running with a Killjoy. So curious to see what 9Z brings to the table, despite the fact that we've seen this composition once. We haven't seen it a whole lot, and it's been about a month. Our casters are standing by to take us into map 1 of this elimination match between 9Z and M80. It's Dryad and Tanner. It's all yours.
Bach, thank you so much. The rest of the desk, you guys set it up nicely, and Dryad boxed it right there at the end. An elimination matchup between our first place in North America and our first place in Latin America. Unfortunately, one of these teams has to go home in this matchup here.
But how exciting is it to be able to play in front of the audience for the first time ever for these two teams? These two teams that have been looking for that kind of experience for this one. When you have that pressure in every single way to make it to the second match of today, to make it all the way to the grand finals, it's a lot of steps to take. And I really like that we get to go into Pro first, as the analyst desk was talking about a little bit. A map that we got to see go all the way to overtime for M80 against the Union for the first match that they have. And 9Z that has played it a couple times very early on for challenges, and they start playing a little bit more.
Yeah, and it's different seeing Thule play on the Jet, one of very few maps, if ever, that he's not on the Rays. And well, it's just as aggressive as ever. Unfortunately, they gonna get caught out as Qualanu finds the first, but quick through Art all the way up. John Cutie grabs his first, and I mean, the sparks are already starting to fly, Dryad.
Very, very aggressive as well, towards mid, towards Link, as well as a couple of the players end up getting taken down, mainly for the side of 9Z. This is something that we talked about. We need this team on the attacking side to be proactive across all the different maps. M80 is a dangerous one to take care of. They're really good at isolating those duels. It's 2v3 to work with. M80 taking their time as well, making a gamble as well as they rotate towards B. 9Z gonna be right behind them.
And I think with Rubkoide still hanging out inside B, Link M80 are thinking that they wanted to look eventually 9Z to crunch this B site. So M80 on the wrong side of the map, and the two players that remain for Nueve Zeta get that spike planted.
But that spike is going to get planted. A couple players that were making it all the way towards that B side end up going all the way back, but the numbers are still here. I'm curious to see how David and Misa are going to be working together for it.
It's so passive. It's so passive. Usually in this situation, right, you push forward, you're trying to find something, but instead they just plant their feet, they hold their ground. Down goes the fragment. Are they expecting another? David just from the corner lines him up, knocks him down. It's the pistol for 9Z.
And the best way to start it off, the clutch coming through for David. First round here going the way of Nueve Zeta, and it looks so good for them. This is a squad and a player as well, as we get to see David get the clutch. That was talking about it on Twitter. He's been struggling to get some momentum going. He's been struggling to perform the way that he's wanted to throughout Ascension. As we know, this team only found success against Fusion, the other Latin American team. But a good way to start them off, a good way to start the momentum for David and for the rest of the squad.
Yeah, a great way to get started there. The pistol round, a Zenny clutch. And this is everything, right? Nueve Zeta come into this one with one series win, so to get some wind beneath their wings early on Pearl, it's a great way to get started. Now a minor force, couple of ghosts spot up, and a Marshal in the hands of Koala Noob. It's nothing unsuspected of this M80 squad, but it's another A site that's completely open for business.
One of the points that the analyst desk was talking about was playing for these post plans. That was the one win condition for Nueva Zeta, not only Latin America, but in the couple matches that we got to see from them across a good amount of different maps, and Pearl's not going to be an exception, knowing that we don't have too much from them here.
Yeah, M80 quick on this one, looking to make it hurt. That's one gun taken away, Thule falls. Post plant set up, smokes are down. No real way to hop onto that spike just yet. And now the bodies start to drop, but it's not in favor of Nueva Zeta just yet. As David has to do it again in a 1v2. Finds the first, needs to grab the next. It's Koala Noob, and David does it again for a Zenny clutch.
And he does it again, the Astra. For that second round, making sure that things don't go the wrong way too early on for the side of M80. Nueva Zeta looking strong. David now for 2 clutches in a row. And it's perfect. I mean, we were talking about it. I just mentioned it, but we were talking about it before in the green room. We were saying, David, he needs to play better. He has been kind of the star player for this team in so many scenarios in Latin America. When he was playing against the big teams all night, when he was playing against Infinity, this guy was getting these kind of clutches, these kind of plays. And on the Astra, this is exactly kind of the dream scenario that you want to have.
Right, this is not necessarily the role that this guy has such fragging power on until he's been on this Nueva Zeta team, and I mean, they just don't stop. Fortunately for M80, John Goody plants his feet backside, able to get one back. It's Thule that has been dealt with, but first blood the way of Nueva Zeta. And another A site, they're still a bit under fire. Good reveal from EU, bringing the fate into this matchup versus the Sova. Wants to find some more, the lesser weaponry proving to be just that. So Spike Plant will need extra credits. Sheriff shots will land, but only for a moment, as there's a bit of respite for M80, and they'll scoop up there first.
A quicker round as well, and an early read that M80 had on this quick attack towards that A site. So the one difference maker right as Sander goes down is EU, and the Hunt, it reveals 2 players that allows for that spam and for the 2 players to get taken down. Taken to 2v2, and it was still pretty expensive for this defensive side, but one thing that has always characterized this M80 squad is the reads that they have on the enemy team on Nueva Zeta. This is how they got that win before.
Yeah, unfortunate.
Now a couple ultimates.
Yep, that's exactly where I was headed too, right? Knives available, it kind of helps the economy. You talked about for Nueva Zeta, they did a good job damaging M80. So you see Blades coming out with a flash. Beautiful Haunt up and over the top, man. EU getting so much value early in this one. The Blades, however, get nothing. And now the Shorty has to do it for Koala.
Even forced to back up. Really good set plays towards the beginning, but Blades needing to connect for those 2 players there. Don't end up happening. Once again, Sander going down first. And that play does not get any value early on versus M80 to back up just a little bit. Put more pressure towards mid, as they can detect some rotations coming in for the attacking side.
Yeah, heartbreaking there. If you have a rifle for Koala Noob, maybe you get that spam through the wall, but not the case. He has since been tossed to Sheriff. Through mid they'll go. I mean, M80 just can't. They continue to think that they've got this read that Nueva Zeta want to hit this B side, especially with the pressure that they got to put on it early. But it couldn't be anything but the opposite.
Especially because when you see that A hit, you expect a couple players to go from R, to be pushing from R. They don't spot anybody towards mid, so for M80, that is the call. This actually be towards B long, most likely, that the players are going to be located, but not really the case at all. Nueva Zeta, they get to get that spike planted, go for that ultimate too, so M80 having to play his full retake.
Yeah, full retake through the Viper's pit. This never feels good. And I mean, an M80 team, I was wondering, in the days leading up to this, when would we see them fall back on this? M80, I think arguably, somebody has to check the stats on this for me, but the team that was saving more often than not. We had seen so many rounds where M80 were just trying to stay conservative with their economy. But this tournament, we hadn't seen it just yet. We hadn't seen it a whole lot, but early in this game, in a 4v5 with a pit in their face, they say, hey, we need to pay attention to this economy or it will be an issue.
And it's very early on for that call, but it seems like the necessary one, as it was the wrong read for M80 though, and also it makes sense, right? A lot of the saves that we get to see, part of it is just because of that aggressive playstyle that M80 like to bring to their enemy every single time. They like to play very aggressive, but they have an insane amount of set plays. It's crazy what these guys like to do. We saw one of them towards that A side a couple rounds ago, and this is something that they're constantly going to be doing. So a lot of the success that M80 finds comes from the early part of the round, for the early 20 seconds, 30 seconds, if anything, when they already have the numbers advantage to work with. They can back up and they can expect and wait for the push from the enemy this time around for Nueva Zeta to come.
And now, technically, we are paused, so we have to jump away for a second.
Okay.
Only 4 rounds into this one, Dryad, and we've talked about, we've kind of hammered what I guess this match, maybe this game specifically, means for David and the impact that he wants to find. And now we have a bit more time to talk about.
Yeah.
This is just, for both of these teams at the very least, this is just a taste of what they're fighting for, right? This crowd right here that we're seeing is just a taste right now for what Americas is going to be, right? Every single weekend getting a chance to play in front of faces like this. And it's going to take those star players rising to the occasion. And now we haven't seen, you know, the Koala Noob or the Nismo attacking side going crazy. We haven't quite had opportunities for Nismo to find 1v4s, much like he did last time these two teams met. But David has already showed us that, you know, he is a bright star. This guy has a superstar in his body. He's got that gene, and not a lot of people have that.
Not a lot of people have that, and he's one of the ones that I mentioned before. Everybody in Latin America talks about this guy because of kind of his understanding, the read of the game that he has, but also the plays that we've seen. Again, last year when he was playing Challengers, when he was playing for a different team, he was playing a lot of that Jet, and he made records. He was the only player that got 3 aces in one map. For the entire year of Challengers. It was crazy to see. He was going insane with the blades, with every single weapon that you gave him. So it's good to see that this guy's starting to feel pretty comfortable on stage. And like you said, the dream that these two teams have, the top 4 that we have right now, this is the dream that they have, to make it all the way to VCT Americas, to be able to play in front of the audience every single weekend. And when they look up, when you look to the side for these players, that's what you're thinking of. That is what's going to be on your mind, and on top of course, that trophy right in the middle, guaranteeing that that spot is going to be yours.
And it seems like we're sitting on some audio issues right now. That is also just a small taste of what could be going on in Americas. You know, the land situation, and you know, technical difficulties happen. Players spill water. Sometimes the headphones are weird. Sometimes you expect white noise and instead you get rickrolled.
What?
Okay, maybe that last one doesn't happen, but that would be funny if just somebody had Rick Astley in their ears the entire game versus...
That sounds like something that would happen to you.
That is... Well, that's something that the producers would do to me. Absolutely, that is something that the producers... After I've been muted so often... after I've been muted so often, as it does come to fruition... it's rightfully so. I would like to say, though, that I haven't been muted, and chat's probably like, I wish this guy was muted.
You're making it. You're going crazy, one step at a time as well.
They said, Tanner, you need to stop muting.
Not Mutra.
Yes, and I said, production, I can change. I can change. and I'm trying to make that change, you know?
Yeah, and you're doing it. Until, I mean,
yeah, yeah. We'll see what happens. You know, we can't count it out. You know, we can't count it out that I won't be muted again.
Gonna get this match, Nueva Zeta and M80 going again. It's a really cool one for many different reasons, right? When we think about Nueva Zeta, one of the things that we talked about was these guys actually have some LAN experience, and they actually have it in Brazil. Yep. They played that last chance qualifier, and they found some success against a Brazilian team. It was Ninjas in Pajamas, the first match that this team was able to win internationally. So they kind of made records after, you know, Crew, Leviathan, the teams that we have in VCT Americas, the teams in Tier 1. So this Nueva Zeta squad is the up-and-coming The one that everybody knows they're next. But, I mean, to be next, you need to take down M80. You need to take down the Union. You need to take down the Guard. So, quite a lot to take care of, especially when you have to take down 2 of these teams in a day.
Yeah, 2 today. That's we definitely have a long day ahead of us for the matchup specifically, right? We get this rematch right here between M80 and Nueva Zeta. For M80, should they win this matchup, they get to show themselves. They get to prove themselves, or at least try to, against the Union once more, the team that they met the very first matchup on the very first day. Obviously, we saw land nerves, the studio nerves kind of get to them. But for Nueva Zeta, that's uncharted waters, right? A win here over M80 would obviously be, righting their previous wrong, but they haven't played the Union yet. That makes it, having to do it in the same day after coming off of this win, it makes it a very grueling day for this Nueva Zeta squad. I mean, I feel bad for their coach, who has to quickly flip the script. I guess both coaches quickly flip the script.
She's got to do it all.
Yeah, and
do it all.
Start getting ready for this Union squad. I will say, I do think the Union to be, now obviously here in North American broadcast, we talk about M80 a lot because they're one of our North American representatives. Yep. So to compare them, I would say that the Union is kind of the Brazilian M80. That's what I thought coming into this. And they've just looked better than M80, but I feel like they have that same play style. So maybe if 9Z win this one, they'll have a small taste of what to expect going into the next. But we're back into the action.
We're back for this round number 5 between the two teams. Nueva Zeta in the meantime taking that lead 3-1. The bye once again looking pretty strong for M80. And waiting for a couple ultimates of their own right. That lockdown for John Cutie is going to be available very soon.
Oh, the action though. I mean, Koala's been doing this just about every other round. This time does get some value. It's immediately traded out. This is the save. M80 saved last round, bring a Guardian into this one, coming off that technical timeout, and those jellies get a little technical. Oh my goodness, this is the point that I was going to talk about. Nismo with a Guardian in his hands. It's like a nuke in this guy's hands.
He gets 2 kills, ends up getting taken down because of the Viper, but it doesn't matter. A 3v2 to work with. The last time that we got to see this one, it was going the way of Nueva Zeta because of David, and he is still alive and healthy. So very dangerous as well with this position. Gonna be going through waters and actually being expected by EU. Yeah, end up getting taken down.
No chance for another Zenny clutch from David. Now it's all up to just the sky. Spike coming down, Star right at his feet, getting spammed out. Fall, stunned up, flashes out, and still 3 players to worry about, but the health pool that he is working with is just a little bit lower. Will take the first duel and lose it. So with that, some early aggression the way of M80 means the round also falls at their feet.
You mentioned it too, in a couple of rounds, not only today, but throughout every time that we get to see M80 on Pearl, you get to see that aggression from that B side for Koala, who likes to go in. And a lot of these cases ends up going the way that we saw, right? For a one and done, ends up getting taken down. And that aggression is actually expected by a lot of teams. It was not an exception, but it is something that has always, and I mentioned it earlier, has characterized this M80 squad. They go for their aggression early on. They find the pick. Even if one of them gets taken down, they back up, and that is enough to win them the round. Those aggressive pushes either is going to be towards mid, towards A, as we got to see before. This time around towards B. They have a lot of these to bring up to Nueva Zeta.
And Skyflash will spot a bit of early aggression. Koala still on the angle. Operator here in round 6. For the Jet of M80. This time, Nueva Zeta go back to playing around the map. Prowler reveals they gotta...
Oh. And as the economy gets better as well for this defense, you get to see more of that util that makes that aggressive style that we saw for Nueva Zeta harder to have those faster hits towards to take care of the killjoy util.
And both initiators on the same side for M80. They're kind of just doubling up on their information. That's a great start. Speaking of initiators, Rupgoide able to take down John Cutie. So that killjoy util you talked about, no longer an issue, but still defenders here. Koala with the operator, I believe, dodges out on the Nightfall, but just not in a position to aggressively backswing ways for the team.
And the spike in the meantime is going to get planted here. A couple of the players are going to be playing from Art. And it's a quick retake here for M80.
And they're quick into the site. Koala still with an operator, though. They push their way through the Cosmic Divide. That doesn't do too much harm in the way of chipping away at the clock. Everybody off the side. Xander will find one. Rupkoide gets it back. 2 kills for him. Meanwhile, I mean, it's just a bloodbath inside A main. All of the attackers turn defenders this way, and Thule hangs on to the round for a 4th for Nueve Zeta.
I'm amped. Let's go. And the blades here, they're going to be available for this Jet player. As Nueve Zeta, they secure that 4th round. The retake that, again, does get a lot more difficult. The positioning and the same kind of round, the same kind of entry that we saw from Nueve Zeta a couple of rounds ago, it played out differently where we didn't really get to see that control from Art. That positioning for that post plan that they got the time to do so this time around because of the Astro Star, so it looked a lot cleaner for the squad. I'm feeling it too with the audience.
Yeah, yeah, the audience. I mean, we saw, I think 10 minutes maybe before the match started, it was just that middle section filled in, and now the rest of it, everybody coming to watch this one right about game time, has a 4-2 scoreline in favor of our Latin American representatives. Nueve Zeta means M80 are going to take their first timeout here on Pearl, try and get it all situated, get it all figured out. Now, we had a long technical timeout. For those of you who don't know, the coaches cannot get involved in the technical timeout. So even though we had all that time, we come back in the game state is really all the information that the players have gotten for themselves. Another round lost, and Happy for M80 says, all right, I got to get in the mix because they are not seeing what I am seeing. And so we'll see what changes after this one. I mean, the quality regression down B long, that seems to be working. He's got another operator, which is absolutely insane, but I guess that's the M80 way.
And also, how many times is Nueve Zeta wanting to contest this operator, right? Because you know most likely what it's going to be, but actually this round is a little bit different, right?
Hey, postures up inside Art. Oof, and 4 players are leaning this way.
Oh, this is good. I was saying you usually know where the operator is. It's usually towards B, but not towards Art. And being forced to back up, though.
I mean, it's still getting run down, though. Koala going to take the first shot. Thule straight into the fray. It's a stinger behind him, and they go 1-2. Koala and Nismo, the duo with the rifle in hand. The swap from Koala. Meanwhile, Rupkoide, they're going to try and push his way through mid. But it just does not land the way that they were hoping. The lesser by the stinger finds 2. The rest of the team cleans it up, and it's a Zenny flawless for M80.
And the Jet gets spotted. You get to hear her dash away, dash back for Koala Noob, and yet Nueve Zeta actually decides to go for this push, try to see if the Jet can be taken down, and guess what? Getting supported by Nismo. So it's not as easy as you think. That extra support as well coming through for M80, and the timeout immediately taking effect.
Yeah, that was much like the pistol round from Nueve Zeta. They saw a player inside Art, and they said, hey, we're just going to run him down, right? Bring the fight right to him. They try to do so with the operator, falls just a bit short this time. A similar lead. A site under fire. Turret's been taken down. John Cutie backs away. Well, the operator's here. It's not Xander to fight Ortegata. It is Koala Noob, and that is your lurk down, but the kill's being taken right back across the map. And Nueve Zeta, they continue to find ways to open up this A site.
It's crazy how EU still though manages to find 2 kills as the only player that was located towards mid, towards R that time around as Miso, ends up finding that success needed to get that KO, does so. The Koala Noob is able to answer back 1v2.
And blades are out too. Rupkoide, another chance in a clutch, this time 1 player less in the 1v2, and they're unsure of where this guy is at right now. And he might have some good timing here. John Cutie gonna look to jump up, no, drops down instead. The knife's been dealt with. John around the corner. Unfortunately, the sky will fall. John on top, and we're all tied up.
Things get even pretty quickly after the timeout. You see,
to cover the angles I can't.
Even how the idea for Nueve Zeta changes right away when, okay, they spot the operator towards Art, 2 rounds to go. For this round, they don't even contest Art early on. They only have the Viper position towards Link early on. Everybody else is a 4-1. Everybody else towards A. They get slowed down because of the KO knife, and they cannot get the push that they want to. The more rounds that you get to see on this half, the more the Nueve Zeta is gonna be slowed down like this.
Blades on the other side, though. Lesser purchased a couple Guardians, couple Sheriffs. It's the A side again. Misu out towards mid. And a probe and prod. Not a whole lot there. The Killjoy utility's all been popped. It stalls for just a moment, but no defenders directly on this side. They're going to try and flood in, and they're going to do so off the back end of the Null command. Out comes the fragment as well. Koala Noob still works his way, but Koala's got the op, and he's the only player on the backside of this site.
And everybody push all the way back. Guess to who? To Koala Noob.
And this is terrifying. 3 players around the corner. The Knives being the first. Finds one. David goes down. Shorty in hand finds a second. They want to try and run down the op, but Koala just won't allow it. The backup has arrived. EU takes down the flash. Rukoide gets one back, but needed so much more than that. Not a whole lot invested in way of weapons from the VCT, but M80 make quick work of what they did have, and they've got themselves a lead.
The util, the lockdown as well, forcing VCT to go in that position towards Secret, and it's just a pinch. Everybody ends up getting taken down. On one side, you find the operator, the Shorty as well up close, and there's just no way out. Yeah, the guy's definitely feeling it for M80. Koala Noob feeling pretty good about it. One of the guys that we always talked about in Challengers in North America. This guy, I think he was always one of the best, if not the best at his role, right? But one thing that he had to overcome was consistency.
Yep.
Can he be consistent for all the matches, especially the matches that matter? And when he has the operator, when he's playing on Pro, it seems like there's no chance he can go against it.
Yeah, I mean, not even when they were losing, Koala, I think, was the first to reach double digits in way of kills. So he hasn't been as affected by, you know, the crowd or the different setting as maybe one would have suspected. I do want to go back to a couple rounds ago where Koala got that kill onto Misu, the Viper, crossing from Art onto the A site. And I would love if somebody could find that clip and turn that scoped-in shot into an album cover, because, I mean, that was just... I mean, that's the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, wow, Misu just got turned into an album cover, because that was as picture perfect as it gets. Just got to see the whole Viper. Either way, whoever said that they take their time out, we'll see what changes. They've a lot of aggression out towards this A site. Now they'll go back to playing it a little bit more spread out, and they punish Koala Noob early, that operator, trying to get out in front of the play. Instead, it's now fallen just outside of Art.
Another aggressive play for Koala Noob. This time around, though, not working out, as the last couple rounds were going for him so well. But the kill now enables and gives all that space towards Art. Yeah, and the neutral theft as well, revealing that positioning, allowing for this hit to be a lot faster.
Yeah, ooh, EU staying alive here just narrowly, but he's got a player on his back. Nismo here to back him up onto the A site, but they've been dealt with now. Jonathan doing it himself. Cloud burst down, he sneaks one onto Thule with one more player. No way, John Cutie goes huge for the clutch.
I mean, thinking about it for a second, was he gonna go out? But no, it's actually John Cutie good for the clutch, for the Sandy clutch once again. We get to see one of those, but this time around for the side of M80, that Killjoy staying alive all the way until the end, and the play was good. They said that they find the kill. And to Koala Noob, they use that neutral theft. Their reveal for the positioning for that defensive side is gonna be, they tried to speed up, play a lot faster for A after getting that info, but M80 responding just perfectly. 4 rounds in a row now. And Nightfall once again gonna be available.
Wow. Heartbreak after VCT just called their timeout. And they go back to a lesser buy. Tuli, Rukoide, they've got themselves a couple of rifles. The rest of the team, unfortunately, cannot say the same. And it's the same A-site pressure.
The couple is staying on Art, actually not pushing just yet, expecting the aggression as well, but the economy is not the best, so the Stingers might just be enough to hunt once again. Beautiful for EU.
No charges.
And you gets it back, but yeah, that Stinger, you mentioned it. They gotta go huge, does way more than expected of him. Misu, the only one inside the pit, will be taken down. Nightfall now available. And with that, EU wants some more information. Where are these players at? All 3 inside Art, 2 of which have been tagged. The tap out of the spike once more. Koala Noob aggressive on the angle, and it's Koala to cut them all down.
How does he find 3 though? In 2 seconds, maybe, that we saw calling him good for 3. And securing the round, though, it feels like once again, it was all thanks to EU. The reveal has been so good, and this fade is one that we've seen. Initially, we saw a lot of it being played in EMEA, then it started being a lot more relevant in Challengers for North America, but it's still not something that Latin America is used to. So it feels like they're just getting comfortable with finding where this hunt is going to be, finding the timings for M80 and how they're playing it. And in the meantime, M80 is just having a field day here.
Oh. And my boy EU. In the 2v3, my boy EU doesn't get dapped up. Come on, man, dap me up!
Surely it happened after.
Surely, yes, surely. That's the story we will tell. That's what we'll tell our kids as we jump back into the game. A bit of a different look. The slam A side strategy for Nueva Zeta, that's what found early success on this map. But M80 started to find that read. They weren't doing enough to sell that it could be B at any point in time. And now they go back to this B site, and yeah, Koala's posted up. No way, misses the shot. Up and Blade's gone in this last round of the half.
Sander has been having this Cosmic Divide, though. He's been waiting for this B hit to be able to use it, and it is the last round, so you can expect it here.
There.
I mean, that's insane. We just saw that neural theft used. Now we get it again. Seekers come out as well. Spike get to be planted. Not a lot of ammunition in these weapons anymore, so all this spam, it's really cutting the numbers down. Flashes out, wall was up, so nobody affected. Another wall just behind him, but as the spike is planted, one's been dealt with. EU will find the first. Thule trying to sneak away inside the purple wall. It's back and forth in the kill feed, and it's all up to Degata. One to his left, one to his right. He'll find one of 2. Now with 12 HP, can he do it again? No Xanter. Will crouch peek the angle, will find the frag, and earn an 8th round on the half for M80.
Inside a little purple cube. Now we're in for the round. Yeah. But it's going to secure that 8-4 for M80. A team that started losing a couple rounds, losing that pistol thanks to a clutch. Another clutch ended up going the way of David. And after the timeout, it seems like it was that different team that is always getting the better read into the enemy team. And Sander, like I mentioned, he was waiting for his chance to use that ultimate, to use that Cosmic Divide, uses it just in time. It ends up being the last one alive for that 1v1. And so M80 with a pretty good lead here. As now they go into the attacking side, the one that can be the most dangerous too.
Yeah, this is a scary place to be for really any team, having to try and defend this M80 explosion, or what could be an explosive attacking side. You have to assume it's going to be the way that Koala Noob started the first half. Now he gets to take the fight right over to Nueva Zeta. As that knife will spot one. Ooh, knife out for a second. They got it dealt with. They knew of that angle. Now Koala Noob splits himself from the team. David gonna try his hand at a couple of fights, and unfortunately it was one too many.
And the Cypher, one of the key pieces here that I wanted to talk about. We usually don't get a Cypher, and it's going to depend a lot on the Cypher util positioning here to get value for Nueva Zeta. But as of right now, it's all M80 domination. Mizu and Thule, the last ones here for the retake.
And they are here, both players promptly on this A site. Mizu, a headshot through the wall. And M80 looking to clean this one up flawlessly. Backline shots from Nismo. Mizu might just be that same beat. Tries to take one with him. Unfortunately, not the case. As any flawless for M80 here in the pistol round as they keep the ship moving.
They keep going for M80. They cannot lose a single round anymore, it seems like. But that is 7 rounds in a row that they were able to get from the... and including the pistol that we just saw.
Enemy remaining.
In a very coordinated execution, as we got to see that KO Nav going first, it spots the Cypher. The Cypher gets pushed and taken down. There's no Cypher util to take care of. And the hit becomes a lot cleaner. Oh, okay, there you go.
Okay, there it is. I thought EU might get him back. Maybe he's a little spiteful of the last one. I also didn't know that R2-D2, made an appearance there for M80 as Koala hits the R2-D2 scream. It's an evolution from putting the mic in his mouth and screaming at his team. You've never heard R2D2 scream?
No.
Oh, Dryad. You're uncultured.
Maybe. I've never heard this scream. Quick round here, though.
Useless individual.
A clean one as well. A clean shot for David. It's a 2v2. Things are even. David was able to do it before, but 49 HP. Is it enough? There's a Vandal 2 for EU.
Unfortunately, Util still on the spike for Nueva Seta. They've done a really good job. The damage dealt in this round amounts to a whole lot. Tap onto the spike means the end of Rubkoide. David looks to push aggressively, trying to find something else. The round will swing the way of M80, but a damaging one. We were talking about how robots scream, and Nueva Seta was making quick work of the M80 attack. Now that Economy going to be in an awkward spot.
The light shields, as we get to see from Nueva Seta, but it's still a buy that could be just enough for M80. And every time that we saw them in Challengers, that was kind of the play that they went for. This buy that for the third round, they're guaranteeing something can happen, something can go in, especially for those players that like to go one step forward with the aggression. And they go for the full investment, actually.
Yeah, they re-up. No bonus round to be found. John Cutie, the only one on, I guess, a lesser buy, bringing that Stinger into this one. I mean, it was what? It was 2 rifles brought over. A minor reinvestment for John means he finds the Stinger, and then the reinvestment from Xander and Nismo.
For M80, the way that they play this, right, as you get to see towards link, it's clearing each one of the parts of this map, each one of these angles, one at a time. As they get the space all across. A little bit more aggressive on this A side. Head plays crouch, a high-low, a flash as well, too. And Nueva Seta coming up on top.
Yeah, out on top. One of those 2 kills, Degara was fully flashed. Meanwhile, across the map, though, oh, no way. Koala is just doing koala things. Listen, I know that you think that they just sleep around all day and eat eucalyptus. No, this is a different type of koala. This guy just jumps up right into the face of Rubkoide there and takes him down, which yesterday, or not yesterday, I was VOD reviewing yesterday, but the casters, I think it was Dust at the time, was talking about how good Nismo is.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold that thought. With Degara in a winnable situation, especially for this Cypher player. And there he is, the guy makes an appearance, Nismo. They were talking about how good Nismo is in finding kills after taking some type of movement, whether that be jumping up or dropping down or blast packing. They were giving Nismo a lot of love for that. But we see it right here from Koala. This guy immediately plants his feet, finds the kill. I mean, that right there is... that's a scary prospect for any team.
Koala was also once again playing by himself there. You see no support. He's just going in, going for the updraft, and managing to get that kill all by himself, as we've seen throughout this map, honestly, and as we've seen throughout Challengers, throughout Ascension. This is what this guy likes to do, and it's so great as well because M80, they can put those resources into everybody else, into all the other positions that you want to hold and push across the map. So Koala is able to find that success all by himself, and it's great. Though I want to say the way that things are going and the amount of rounds that M80 has gotten in a row, it is really reminding me of the Guard Fusion match that we watched a couple days ago, where it was very close towards the beginning. You think, hey, Fusion, that other Latam team, maybe stands a chance against the best of North America. And then things start to go the wrong way for this region. They cannot find any round, they cannot find any success, they cannot shut down that momentum that M80 likes to take it, and that is what's happening right now.
Well, I don't remember if fans mentioned it on the desk or if it was before, kind of in the green room while we were all chatting, that what he noticed, a tendency from Nueva Seta is when they have a plan, they usually just stick to the plan, right? They're not necessarily calling out, and if things aren't going the way, maybe look at the mid-round and play elsewhere. They kind of stick to their guns. We saw that a lot on the attacking side. It's harder to do on defense, but in the rounds where we found success, for Nueva Seta, it was catching M80 off guard and making them rotate to the wrong side of the map. They really didn't set themselves up with a whole lot coming into this side where, I mean, M80 is just going to run you down.
And very up close, everything getting clear right by the utility. That means the site has this B site completely belonging to M80 Spike, attempting to get planted. They gotta get one with the sheriff.
And these Sheriffs, they proved potent. In the anti-eco round, Vandal a bit better. Koala could go for the reload though, and he gets run down. That's a rifle picked up. And now a man-up situation for Nueve Zeta. A winnable one as that spike is planted. How much util is here to deal with that one? Worried about the flank. Up top of the box goes Thule. No way. EU lines up too. Xander there to knock down the last. And M80 hang on to the round.
It really felt like that was the chance for the retake, right? But towards B, the only piece of utility that was available for Nueve Zeta was actually that guiding light. It gets utilized, you find one kill, but you need a lot more to take care of. Playing so far back, it does not get any easier. EU, good for 2 there, really makes all the difference of the round. And M80, they get to 12.
And map point here on Pearl for M80, and you see that that string of rounds that they've pieced together, I believe now 10 in a row unanswered. And the pace doesn't stop. It's quick inside A main. This is where, like I said, they have been putting a defender just about every round. This time the defenders, Thule still on the site. Gets good damage onto EU as he backs away.
Yeah, Thule now forced to back up, and there's a no command available too. There's a Cosmic Divide. There's so many tools to make this round go the way of M80. And that's gonna help, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's also, the attacking operator. Now the blades are online. There is a lot that Nueve Zeta have to worry about. Rupkoy, they're going to try his hand out towards mid. Nobody home this time around. Flash reveals. Nobody out this way, and now they know that this hit seems like it's a B hit.
How do you even get out? Can you get out? There's no chance. Mizu down.
I mean, the 0 point was huge. The backstab, even better, right? Mizu couldn't get out, couldn't use his wall to sneak away because of Nismo's utility. He gets suppressed. He gets caught on the cross. A shot to the back finds John Cutie a kill. Now Thule and David have to work together. A 2v5 to try and hang on to this map. Both players coming from the defender's side. The one-way smoke. He can barely see something, but Xander takes down his counterpart. Now Thule will try in a 1v5. Finds the first. There's the second. Blades online. And now this one looking a whole lot more doable here, but he's running out of time. No dash available, but a couple of updrafts to play with. Spam through the cloudburst. A player on the inside, a player on the outside. Too much to worry about. A team ace to close us out, and M80 have stricken first here in this series.
Domination for M80, and all it took was a timeout that we saw early into the first half. And after that, they could not lose a single round. They didn't even seem like they came close, right? Compared to what we saw towards the beginning, towards the pistol, the 4th, 5th round, where it was really going back and forth with the players like EU for M80 saying right at the end. David, as we talked about, also kind of doing the same, but it was just not enough for a Nueve Zeta that, like you said, like Vance was saying, needs a lot more than that initial plan. It is that initial plan, and then what happens in the mid round to adapt to M80.
Yeah, and the M80 comeback started off of a timeout taken, right? And I think in that timeout, they had that conversation of, guys, we're rotating to this B site for what? Because we saw Sky in B-link doors, because the Cypher got a kill out towards B as well. And it wasn't until after that M80 really started to hold their ground and not give up some of these positions. I like the idea of Nueve Zeta continuing the aggression in some of the rounds, like the pistol round we saw. Obviously, that goes their way. That works great. Then they try to chase down this operator. And if there's anybody that you have to punish, it's Koala, right? So if you can find ways to punish, yeah, do that.
Oh,
but yeah,
what is
so
the
hard.
way?
Yeah, it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible.
What is the way to punish him? It just seems so impossible. And we saw Nueve Zeta actually going for different approaches into how to punish Koala, right? We saw one of the rounds where he was being followed, he was being chased. Other rounds where they were giving that respect to Koala and trying to avoid him, but you never knew where he was going to be.
Now, as we take a peek back at the highlights, we're going to send things over to the desk to break that all down and set us up for the next one.
Hot damn. M80 come out the gates with a bit of a bumpy start. I'm not gonna lie, Roy, I got a little nervous at first. I'm like, oh no, this is feeling like group stages. They're rattled. They take a timeout. And good lord, M80 just completely go on fire at that point. They won 11 straight rounds to close out the game 13-4.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when you put it that way, it's a little rough. But I feel like it was, you know, there were some moments for 9Z where they had advantages. They had some really good rounds. I mean, let's go back to the beginning though, right? Like David having 2 major clutches to save them from what could have been a horrible start for 9Z. Everything looked good from that point on. They closed out of several rounds after that, and it just all looked like it was coming together. But some weird like heroics of M80 kind of just woke up.
Yeah, the 1 gear style of 9Z, I actually still liked it from the beginning because you've won pissed around from those clutches coming out from David. Then you're using weapon advantage to get that second round. Your pulse plan's looking pretty good. But then after that timeout, right, when still you were seeing that M80 was getting picked off very early on plays that they were trying to do round after round, it still came back to, okay, well, if we've lost one player in one section, do we have to overextend on the other one and overcompensate? And we didn't really see that coming out of M80. After that timeout from Happy, I'm assuming it's like, okay, well, let's just anchor towards our site because they're going to go towards where that pick was. And you just saw some great plays coming out from M80 overall. I mean, you still had some heroic plays that had to come out from John Cutie to win like a 3 versus 1 in order to win one of those rounds. But overall, it's still, once M80 took the attack, how did you really stop that? M80 had the 1 gear on the attack, and it wasn't even stoppable there for 9Z.
Well, you even say that, though. If you look at the pistol, you had mentioned that David won a clutch in the pistol. David wins a clutch in the second round. The other 2 rounds they won were the most definitive rounds, but otherwise, like, really only 2 rounds were strong rounds. The other 2 were 1v1 victories or 1v2 victories for David. There were opportunities for 9Z where they kind of dropped the ball. That 1v3 against John definitely is the one that seems to stand out the most. He probably should not have won that situation, but he did. And there's a couple instances like that, Vans. But if you really look, the rounds really started to get rough. And now the question for 9Z is, how do you reset?
Yeah, I mean, how can you reset? You're about to go play against M80 on Haven. I don't know if you actually could. But yes, definitely, of course, you could take it round after round and match after match. But this is going to be a very tough one against them. Even if you're looking at this shaky start from M80 at the first 2 rounds. After that, though, where players we wanted them to kind of like step up and always have that consistency. Koala Noob has been on point overall in the whole, in the whole map. He was actually putting up some great numbers, trip kills, supporting teams, getting good entries, helping out for the retakes as well, except for this one, right? This is where it gets punishing overall, where you tried to go for these trap plays and get punished out of it, and then 9Z was able to capitalize out of that for a couple of kills until you had clutches in coming in later. But I gotta say, it's gonna have to be very, very difficult here for 9Z. You just have to cross out at least that first map, hope for the best for Haven, but I don't expect to see a third map here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just jump on the 9Z fence for a little bit here because I feel like, you know, we already know M80 is a really strong team, right? But I mean, 9Z had a lot of like decent rounds, right? Like they had the 5v3 that they lost, they had the 3v1 that they lost. Like there were many instances where they had very clear.
You call that decent? They lost.
It was good until it wasn't.
I mean, like, I mean, like, can't get better than that. Okay, there, I said it. I said it. It could not have gone any better than that. They had very clear win conditions. They just really needed to close those rounds out. But again, heroics are not a reliable win condition, right? Like you can't expect John QD to clutch 1v3 every single time. So there is room for 9Z to steal some of these rounds. I mean, I say steal, but like secure their advantages. And if they do, they have a real shot.
Here's the thing. We came into the series prepping you guys saying, hey, Pearl's a map that M80's played a lot of, and it's certainly comfortable, but Haven is home turf. This is a map they absolutely love.
Yes.
And if Koala Noob is feeling himself, this is a map he is a demon on. An absolute mess, something that he is very difficult to play against. We'll see what he brings to the table and the rest of his team. Maybe 9Z has something hidden up their sleeve as we prep for Haven. We'll be back in a bit.